back to the Ohio Revised Code. The role of a county commissioner is spelled out in Chapter 307 of the Revised Code. I think it may also be misunderstood by a lot of people. A county commissioner doesn't make laws like a city council member or village council member. It's largely an administrative body. Elected to 4-year terms, county commissioners set the strategic direction and fiscal priorities for the county. They serve as the budget and appropriating authority for all county government, including county agencies and elected officials. I think the Richland County General Fund budget in 2023 was about $42 million, give or take. So let's start with the same question for both of you. Tell us about yourselves, where you grew up, where you went to school, your work experiences, hobbies, interests, whatever you'd like to do. And Aaron, we'll let you go first.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank you all for having this forum and this opportunity. I thank Mr. Banks for coming as well. I find him to be a gentleman, and I appreciate him. I would like to let you know, introduce myself. I am Aaron Williams. I actually went to school in Ontario, moved here from New Jersey in 1979. My father was a pastor and founded a church there in Orange, New Jersey. But my mother grew up here. This was her home. And we came back upon the request of my mother's former pastor after he had deceased. He wanted my father to take over that church. And so for 26 years, my father pastored 2 churches 500 miles away from one another. We moved here, and he took care of both places. In 2003, he stopped doing that and just took care of the Maddox Memorial Church. Shout out, Maddox. And in 2016, I became the pastor, very proud pastor of the Maddox Memorial Church of God in Christ, located at 1148 Walker Lake Road in Mansfield, Ohio. Just want to let you know. Very happy to be the servant of that ministry. As I said, I went to school in Ontario, graduated from there, and then we joined the military. After a couple years of school, we joined the military. It was relatively quiet in the world, I thought, at the time. I went in for a job, and then a few months after I joined, Saddam Hussein went into Kuwait and messed up some things there. And so a few months later, we were in the Gulf War, Desert Storm and Desert Shield. So I'm a proud service member during that era as well. And then came out of that and came back home, started a family, worked in the medical field, and worked at Med Central, and then also worked in the school systems. I currently work in the school systems as well as ministry. I have all of those things. What they have in common is service. I've served in the military, served my country, I served my community, I serve as a mentor to young people, and serve in ministry, and I serve in the schools. I just serve. And so just offering myself up as a servant.
All right, thank you. Darrell, your turn.
Okay. I'm Darrell Banks. My family has been in Richland County since before the Civil War. I am a graduate, actually the 3rd class from Clear Fork High School. And after Clear Fork, I went to Iowa State Cyclones and got a degree in food service management. And then I went into the Army from 69 to 72. Come back to work in my family's restaurant, Sandar Smorgasbord. I am the Dar of Sandar. And I came back to work there for 1 year while my dad was president of the Ohio Restaurant Association. And fell in love with Richland County again and the village of Belleville, and decided we wanted to raise our children there. My wife and I just celebrated our 57th wedding anniversary, and we have 2 children, and I have 3 redheaded grandchildren, and they're all doing great. They're in their 20s, After working at the Sandar for a number of years, about over 20, I became a vocational educator teaching marketing and travel and tourism at the Knox County Career Center. And at the same time, my wife and I had a tour company, Sandar Hospitality. And back in '75, my dad and I built Sandar Acres Golf Course, an executive golf course located in Belleville, now called Little Apple. So I have very much a variety of experiences. And I used that to become the mayor of Belleville, and I was elected for 3 terms, and now 2 terms as county commissioner. I think my experience is wide, vast in a number of areas, and I think it helped me to prepare myself to be a county commissioner.
Well, thank you. This time we'll start back with you, Darrell. As you mentioned, it was a good segue. You're seeking a 3rd term in office, which means you've been a commissioner now for almost 8 years. So what 1 or 2 things are you most proud of during your tenure in office, and what has been the biggest challenge that you haven't been able yet to overcome? The one thing you kind of hope to get done in the next 4 years.
Well, I think one of the best things that we've done, and it's been done with, actually with 4 commissioners, the 3 that are currently serving, and Marilyn John, when she was a county commissioner, and that is getting the finances under control and preparing for the future with the finances. We have passed a balanced budget every year, and that's a real balanced budget, not a, we do not use our funds from the carryover or from our capital improvements or our rainy day fund. And we've set up a couple different policies that help contribute to the rainy day fund in the future, as well as putting money in capital funds. And I think another thing that we've done is working with the capital funds. We're investing very much in our assets that are owned by the Richland County taxpayers. We're investing in a 1968, the building was built, the Richland County Administration Building, and we're putting money back into that so that it will last for a long time. We've got new clerk of courts office. We've put money in the elevators. We've put money into fixing up the building, keeping it, and I think those are good assets. We've put money into 911. They were in a very poor building, poor room, and with a lot of problems. We have a new 911 center. We've built a couple of Marks Towers. We've invested and will continue to invest into the future of the county. I think the last part of that question is what I tend to do.
Yeah, what's been the biggest challenge that you maybe haven't been able to overcome yet?
Well, getting a balanced budget is not a challenge that you get done in 1 year. It's a challenge every year. And we are receiving the budget from our different departments and other elected officials, and they're coming in now and taking a look at that. I think maybe our one of the biggest challenges for the next few months is going to be to balance that budget again. But the 3 of us will get it done. And finding good people to get the job done. I think everybody that's in business right now, everybody that's involved is finding the right people. And we have a lot of good people. Some of them will be retiring. And but finding good people is always a challenge.
All right. Aaron, this one's going to be for you. As you mentioned, you've been a local church pastor, following your father's footsteps. You've worked in the city schools, other places. This is the first time you've run for public office. So what prompted your decision to enter this race? What made you say, you know what, it's time for me to get in the game here?
Actually, and thank you, Carl, for the question. Once again, I have somewhat of some background with dealing with young people, and they are quite naturally close to my heart. I have 3 daughters myself, and a new grandfather, and I'm very fond of the future as it would be. My father used to say when he pastored that a church without young people is doomed. And so not just a church, but a community without young people. And so I was initially asked to have a talk at the Women's Caucus in 2023 pertaining to the gun violence that was going on in our community. And afterwards, the question was raised, would you be interested in running for office? And absolutely not. It's not in my purview, not something I was thinking of. Pastoring has become something that I really enjoy. I really enjoy serving people and serving God's people. And so it was something that I really wasn't interested in. However, that question stuck in my head, actually. And throughout that summer and into the fall, I had that in my head, if you will, until someone asked me once again if I would consider running for office. I said no at the time. But then, once again, I thought about it, and some things started happening, or were happening some more. And something that really triggered my yes was around this time last year, there was an incident in our community. Many people know about it, and some lives were lost. And in this community, in our city, we have an urban element, but Mansfield is still small. And so when something tragic happens, it affects almost everyone, if not everyone. And I was mentoring a young man. I still see him. We talk and we chat. But I saw him the next day after the incident. And I asked him what was wrong because he looked pretty sad, very sad. He was always a bubbly young man. And he said that he lost a friend of his best friend. And I knew the young man, and it touched me deeply. And so I felt that I was looking for something from our leadership, if you will, with regard to our young people. As you can tell, I'm pretty passionate about it. The lives of our young people is paramount. We can invest in buildings, we can invest in property, we can invest in more money, but the best investment we could ever make is an investment in our future, which is our youth. And so with that in mind, when I was asked to run for this office, I asked the question in turn, how can I make a difference in this position? And then the answer came anywhere I put my attention to. And so I started doing some more homework, and if you will, and looking into things and seeing that the current commissioners have done a bumper job in balancing the budget and taking care of taxpayers' money, if you will. And I can appreciate that living and being a taxpayer in Richland County. But there are some areas that I think that if I had the opportunity, that I would see if we can put some attention to, and things that, and I've heard from other past commissioners that said, that's not something that we as commissioners do. However, that's interesting that you think like that. And so that's what got me into wanting to run for this position.
All right, Aaron, we'll stay with you for just one more second. It's the same question I had a few minutes ago for Chris Adams. You're running as a Democrat in a county that's about 4-1 Republican, and most people are independents. But what do you want Republicans and independents to know about you that they may not know today?
First of all, nowhere did I say that I was a Democrat. I am running under the Democratic ticket. I am registered as a Democrat. However, I growing up in my mother and father's house, we didn't really talk about our politics, if you will, or inform people about how we were voting. Instead, we educated ourselves on issues and individuals, and people who spoke to us, regardless of their party affiliation, who spoke to us. That's more than likely how my parents, for instance, leaned. They never told me necessarily who they voted for, and so I'm not discounting the Democratic Party at all. It's a vast party. It's very diverse, which is something that I can appreciate, because the diversity, within the diversity, you have some people who are way over to the left and you have some people who are way over to the right, even in the Democratic Party, and they're still under the one umbrella. They can conversate. They can have discussions about their agreements and their differences. What I would like people to know about me is that I care about people. I don't care about party. I don't let a party define who I am or define my religious beliefs. I like to have my life define everything. How I am and how I treat people and how I treat people in front of other people should be the definitive factor in how you judge Aaron Williams. And so you won't have to worry about me mistreating you because you have an R behind your name. That means nothing to me. I look at who you are as an individual.
Darrell, a similar question that I just asked of Aaron. What would you want the Democrats to know about you that they may not already know?
Well, I would want them to know that I make decisions based on facts and on the process of finding out a solution to the problem, finding out and defining what that problem is. Once it's to find out what the problem is, then I come up with all the different solutions that may help solve that problem. And you come up with those solutions, you find out, well, if we did that, what would happen? And with that, picking out the best solution, then go ahead and go through with it, and then go back afterwards and evaluate that. And I think I have done that with decision-making, problem-solving, and finding the right. It's not just a matter of making a decision, but researching the facts, trying to solve which is going to help the most, do the best job, and then once you make that decision, implement it, and go back and evaluate it.
I will stay with you, Darrell. As you mentioned, the current Board of Commissioners has a policy, I think, that requires the three of you to approve a balanced budget. I think that's your own policy.
That is correct.
Yep. Which means you won't appropriate more than you estimate in revenue each year. Over the last few years, the county has built up a surplus. I think at the end of 2023, there was $12.7 million in capital, almost $7 million in a rainy day fund. But you've got some departments, and I can think of one, the prosecutor's office, that ask for more funds than they usually get. Is there a way, in your mind, to meet all of the needs of elected officials and the various agencies, even if it means appropriating more than expected revenue in a year? if you've got a special need that you really want to address for that 1 year? I mean, is there a way around your own policy, the board's own policy about we will never appropriate more than we take in?
I think if there was an emergency situation, I think we would find a way around those policies on a temporary basis. And again, it's not something I would do lightly, because I know that if someone asked me for $97,000 more, if I was lightly give them $97,000, tomorrow they'd want $100,000. But we do, and you mentioned some of the departments we had. I'll give you an example. The dog pound, the dog warden is supposed to be self-sufficient, not asking for general fund dollars. Last year we gave them $60,000 because they had an excessive amount of dogs the last couple of years, and their budget wasn't doing the job. They were doing the job the best they could, but we knew to do a better job, we needed to give them more money. So we gave him $60,000. I would say that we probably are going to have to do, maybe not to that amount, but something this year to take care of that. And we have policies that we intend to go by, but I'm not saying that we're not flexible enough to take a look at them.
All right. Aaron, one of the things you've talked about in your campaign and again tonight is working with local youth. That seems something that would come naturally as a church pastor or a school employee. But I think you yourself mentioned this. As a county commissioner, what specific steps would you take to interact with and improve conditions for local youth? And how does that tie into a county commissioner role, which is overseeing county government and expenditures and revenues and things like that? How do those two come together?
So I appreciate the question, because once again, in my conversations with a couple former commissioners, they had mentioned my desire to explore some things regarding our young people, and they thought it was, well, it's something that we don't do as commissioners, but I don't see a problem with seeing or meeting with or visiting some of our young people who are in the juvenile jail, the juvenile court over on Diamond Street, visiting them and seeing what are some of their dreams and aspirations, what are the issues that have gotten them where they are at that current time, and maybe possibly looking at how we can move away from that and be a positive role model in the community for them. Same with our jail system. I've been to Richland County Jail. I've visited inmates there. I've visited inmates at the juvenile center. And I visited a young man who was a student of mine over at Hedges some years ago. And the young man had no one. His mother had just been murdered a couple months prior to, and his father was actually being looked for by the police, and they had found him and had a shootout with him, and he passed away from that shootout. Well, they had arrested this young man because he may have held or may have housed his father prior to them finding him. Well, I went to see him because he had no one else, and he had no idea that I was coming to see him. And to see his face light up, not understanding what was happening to him, and the situation said everything. He appreciated that. We don't know what some of our young people are going through. There are homeless in our homeless young people in our community. probably don't know that. If we go home to our houses, our comfortable places of dwellings, there may be some children who are trying to find somewhere to sleep tonight here in our little city of Mansfield. Not to mention other areas in Richland County. I believe that if I could bring some attention to that, I understand there are guidelines to how we disperse funding. I understand that there has to be a balanced budget, and there's no way I'm going to be a salty dog on any of that. I want to make sure that those things get done, primarily because if we can, and there is some way that we can invest into our young people, something that is unconventional, something that has never really been done, something that nobody thinks that a commissioner would do or has ever done in the past, why not try it? Why not try it? As a pastor, we had issues financially several years ago, before I was a pastor, actually. And we came together, and a team of us within the church, my father being the pastor at the time, and we came together. I was also a trustee. And so we worked together at making sure that things went smoothly, and we got back on track financially. Now we are on a better track financially, and we've been able to do some things over the last 8 years. We've purchased 2 boilers, $5,000 each. We had our parking lot blacktopped and paved. We bought a $27,000 air conditioning unit. We did this just off of the gifting and the benevolence of the members of our small membership, okay? And so we don't go around just spending money haplessly. And so I don't believe in that. I believe in taking care of a balanced budget, doing things properly. But when we are able to, when we have an opportunity to invest in our young people, why not do it?
All right, I've not got a question for both of you, and Darrell, we'll let you go first. We talked about you've got a healthy capital budget in hand. What specific projects would you like to see the county undertake in the next 4 years with that capital budget, and why?
Well, we will be soon having a bid opening for inside the, again, it's in the administration building. It is doing all the restrooms, doing the 4th courtroom, and doing the makeup of all the other corridors. And that's one thing that we'll be doing very soon. We want to expand broadband. Right now, there's broadband is coming across Route 30, and we joined in that project. It's going to help the Air Force Base so that the security out there will have much better broadband. And by coming right across 30, it should help the north end of Mansfield as well as the rural areas outside to get much better broadband than we have right now, much better internet than we have now. So that's a couple of things. We also want to do, safety is an issue. And the jail is in pretty good shape, but working with the Sheriff's Department, working in cooperation with the Mansfield City Police and others, certainly we want to do a better job of protecting our citizens.
Same question for you, Aaron. You've got a capital budget of about $12 million at least coming into this year. What sorts of capital investments specifically would you like to see made in the next 4 years?
I would like to, it's probably crazy, and I don't know if this is the exact thing. I appreciate the investment in improving our buildings, our streets, roadways, and all of that. I don't think, once again, and I may be beating a dead horse, but none of that matters if you don't have anybody to occupy it or use it in the future. If we're not preparing them, helping to prepare our young people for being the leaders of our community, and maybe even attracting other young people to our community. I would like to, there's not a lot for our young people to do in the summertime, and we fear summertime coming on because we don't know what our young people are going to do. At the school I work at now, Malabar, I was working with the initiative, the Peace on My Block initiative, that our superintendent, Stan Jefferson, had initiated. And I was working with the principal, Mr. Tom Hager, and some other staff on last year. We were working together, and we're doing it again this year, working together to provide something for the young people, especially the ones who maybe have been identified a little bit at risk or having issues with some things, coping mechanisms. And so this past year, or this year in May, we had an outing at the Arlen Field, and there were all kinds of games and things to do. It was a nice fair, and they ended it off with some fireworks. We would like to, I think, putting some money into something county funded or in collaboration that would be an attraction for our young people. The soccer complex is beautiful. Why not a pool? Why not something that is just a youth center that may even be sponsored or helped to be purchased or operated by the county? I don't know, but I would love for something that is youth-centered, future-minded to come forth out of that. And like I said, an investment in our young people, you can never go wrong on that.
Another question for both of you. Richland County, like all other counties, municipalities, villages, has benefited from American Rescue Plan Act funds. I think Richland County got $23 million over the last 3 years. By the time one of you takes office in January, Darrell, whether you're being reelected, or Aaron, whether you get elected, that money is all going to have been allocated because it has to be appropriated by the end of this year. So did the Board of Commissioners do a good job of spending that money? Darrell, I know you're only one vote of 3, so are you in agreement with what was done during the last 3 years? And if not, where would you have liked to have seen money spent that maybe didn't get spent in that way? And Aaron, you go first this time.
I'll just say that there are places where I would have liked to see that money, some of that money at least, be invested in. And once again, it was in community. It was in building up in the safety. I personally, along with some other clergy, had requested some of those finances to help with to combat in some way some of the plight of violence that has been going on. And we were unable to secure anything through the county. They kindly suggested some other avenues, and, but I would have liked to see if there was some way that we could have secured some finance to be able to invest in, and once again, everything I talk about has nothing to do about putting in any one or two people's pockets. It's all about investing in the communities that we serve. And so not just in the city of Mansfield, but in some of these other smaller communities that make up this beautiful, diverse county. Richland County is getting more and more diverse. There are peoples here now that we didn't used to have, and it's just becoming a beautiful, beautifully diverse county. And we don't have that many people here, but it is from farmlands to small communities to a representation of an urban element here in Mansfield. It's getting to be very diverse, much more than when I first moved here 40 plus years ago. So I would have liked to see it go to a couple different places. Yes, thank you.
Similar type question, Darrell. I mean, I've attended the meetings, I've watched decisions that the commissioners make. What do you think you're most proud of in terms of ARPA? And is there anything that you would have changed?
Well, given the rules, ARPA was just not a blank check of 23 million and you put it wherever you want to. We had many rules that we had to follow. Based on the rules that we had to follow, based on the amount of money and the needs, I stand behind what we decided to do, and I wouldn't have changed anything after looking at the facts, after looking at the different things that the people needed, and I'm very happy to say that what we invested it in, unlike some people spending their ARPA money, are things that are going to be here for decades, most of the things will be here for decades, and they are going to serve the taxpayers and save them money down the road on needs that will not be needed in decades because we maintain things, and so I'll stand behind what we spent it on.
All right, well, we've come to the point for kind of closing arguments. I want each of you to take just a minute and tell the folks sitting in the audience and online why you deserve their vote on November 5th. And Darrell, you go first this time.
Well, first of all, I'm asking for your vote. I would appreciate your vote. And the reason is the experience I've had in my many years of life, in working in business and working in the public sector, the private sector, Mayor of Belleville, County Commissioner for 8 years. There's a lot of experience that I have, and I think you can look and see what has happened in the last 8 years that with the 4 commissioners you've had during that time. And I believe that if you look at that closely, you will say these 4 commissioners did a good job for Richland County, and let's keep them doing that job. Thank you.
Aaron, you get the last word here.
I would like to ask for your vote to bring light to the commissioner's office. Many people don't know who their commissioners are. It's not the most visible office, but I would like to be able to represent Richland County as a whole, not just one city or one community, but Richland County as a whole, and to bring light to a very important body of government within our communities, and hopefully share the integrity that has gone on throughout the years. And I appreciate Mr. Banks and everything that he has done along with his colleagues up until now. Thank you, sir.
All right, and with that, we've come to the end of our conversation with 2 candidates for the Richland County Board of Commissioners. I want to thank Darrell Banks and Reverend Aaron Williams for joining us tonight. and spending time giving us their thoughts on what they would do if elected on November 5th.